Talking about the Raiders right now, they have Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow, and I believe Zay Jones is a free agent. He's still there as well. They have $50 million in cap space, which is about middle. They're 15th in the NFL, but they have a ton of draft capital. They have the 12th overall pick, the 19th overall pick. They have 3 third-round picks, so they could wait and get a wide receiver. We talk about how deep this wide receiver draft class is. They could pick up a fantastic talent at the 316 if they wanted to, and kind of wait for the draft to come to them. I also love Jerry Jeudy as a first round pick for them here. Give them a true wide receiver one. The comp for Jeudy has been Devontae Adams, and that's what the Raiders need, right? Like this death by 1,000 cuts offense that they run, the Gruden grinders, handing it off to Josh Jacobs on first and second down, and then being efficient on third down with Derek Carr, or maybe somebody else that they bring in. That's another question mark. But what do you think the Raiders do here? They really need a wide receiver one that can take over, especially in the red zone and deep downfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are locked in for a wide receiver in the offseason. I think they actually have a very similar situation to the Colts. They have cap space, they have draft capital, and they have a glaring need at wide receiver. And it's interesting you say Jerry Jeudy was a comp to Devontae Adams. I know Jeudy is a lot smaller. So I could see them bringing in a guy like Jerry Jeudy, though. I mean, I think of him kind of like a Stephon Diggs, very polished routes, very smooth, has got some speed. And I think they have a Antonio Brown-sized hole in that offense at that wide receiver one spot. So I think the Raiders are in play for the top-tier guys. I think Tyrell Williams is a solid wide receiver two in the NFL. He's not a wide receiver one. Hunter Renfrow is a great slot guy. We saw him come on strong last year. Darren Waller's great underneath. But I think they could go out and be a player for some of these top names. I think I'm concerned as a Colts fan at the 13th overall pick that the Raiders are going to take our guy at 12th if it's going to be a wide receiver. I think they're in play for Jeudy. I think they're in play for CeeDee Lamb. And I also think they're in play for some of these free agents. Maybe they'll go out and get an A.J. Green to headline Las Vegas. Maybe they wouldn't this be interesting? They go out and sign Amari Cooper back. That would be the swindle of the century, getting one of these getting a first round pick from the Cowboys, giving them a little loan, a season and a half of Amari Cooper, and getting them right back. That would be really interesting. I don't even know if he'd be interested in going back, but I think they are in a desperate need for a number one wide receiver, and it's going to come. So I don't necessarily think they're in play for a guy like Robbie Anderson. He's too similar to Tyrell Williams in my mind. But I do think whether it's A.J. Green, Amari Cooper's a bit of a stretch, but maybe that number 12 pick, they're going to get a wide receiver. And I think it's going to be a top-tier guy that they want to have as their wide receiver one for now and into the future.
It feels like Tyrell Williams could be a serviceable two. Hunter Renfrow had his moments. He's a receiving receptions monster down there in the slot. I want to play a little what if scenario with you, Alex. The Oakland Raiders, we saw them as potentially a wild card contender for a little bit of this year.
The Vegas Raiders.
The now Vegas Raiders, my apologies. Yes. But if they had Antonio Brown there, they went 7-9 in the regular season. They're fighting in a tough division with the Chiefs. Where do you think they could have been if Antonio Brown would have panned out for them? You think they would have gone over the hunt and been in the wild card race?
Yeah, I'll tell you, my fantasy team certainly would have finished higher. But I think they would have been right there. I mean, given the circumstances they were in, AB is gone before the first game. One of their first-round picks, Jonathan Abram, if you watched Hard Knocks, you saw how well he was playing in camp. And then even in that first game of the regular season against Denver, he had a really strong game. He goes out after the first game for the season. So you look at those two things combined and then, just how well the Raiders really came together and truly grinded for the regular season. And you got to think they would have made a run. They were 7-9. They're just a couple of games out for that wild card spot. I really do think they're a wide receiver one away from being a contender. I think Derek Carr's fine. I think he's a good enough quarterback to at least get them into the playoffs. I don't know if he's a Super Bowl type guy. There's always the rumors about Derek Carr getting traded or then bringing in competition or something like that. But just with the draft class they had last year on both sides of the ball, We saw Josh Jacobs be awesome. Hunter Renfrow, we just mentioned. Then on the defensive side, Cleveland Farrell had a decent rookie season. He didn't quite live up to that number 4 overall pick in year 1, but then Max Crosby on the other side for the pass rush was incredible. We just mentioned Jonathan Abram. He's going to be back at safety this year. They have 2 more first-round picks and 3 picks in the 3rd round. So the Raiders, I mean, watch out for the Raiders. If they go out and sign a top wide receiver and spend some of that money on maybe some holes on the line or the defensive side of the ball, and then they use this draft capital well, they are going to be a force next season. So I think they probably would have finished 8-8 or 9-7 last year. I think they would have been right on the cusp of that wild card spot, but maybe things would have been a lot different if they would have gotten in the playoffs instead of the Titans. So you can always play the what if game, but yeah, I think that void is real, and I think that is definitely one of the reasons that their offense wasn't really able to open up to its full potential in 2019.
Yeah, the Raiders might see that Gruden signing finally pay off here in 2020, maybe 2021.